Hello friends, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. Quite a few of you, my viewers, have asked me to do a video about my most complimented cheap fragrances. So today's video is going to be on that subject. Today I'm going to show you the most complimented cheap fragrances from my collection. So let's start. Now, I just wanted to get something out of the way first before I talk about the actual scents. I don't know how it is in your parts of the world, but at least where I live, in my country, people don't very often give you compliments, especially, I'm talking about especially strangers, total strangers, people that you meet on the street, that you go past by on the street, or someone in a shop or in a mall, shopping center, whatever. People around here, they won't give you compliments on your fragrances very often. So the compliments, the fragrances that I'm going to talk about in this video have gotten me compliments mostly from people that are close around me. I'm talking about close friends, family members and colleagues. Just keep that in mind. And also I'm interested to hear how it is in your parts of the world, in your countries. Do people often give compliments to other people for their fragrances? One such fragrance that, at least in my experience, has brought me quite a lot of compliments comes from the house of Haramain, and it's called Club de Nuit Iconic. This fragrance is a very good clone, a very good alternative to Bleu de Chanel EDP. It's done very nicely, it has a very similar scent profile, slightly different opening compared to the original fragrance, lacks a bit of that creamy oudiness that you get out of the original scent, but that's to be expected because this fragrance costs about 1/3 of the price of the original, but on the dry down gets very close to Bleu de Chanel. And since Bleu de Chanel is a very likable scent, people like to wear it, people like to smell it around them, Club de Nuit Iconic has been a compliment getter for me. Performance here is very good. Just wanted to do something else. People have asked me, viewers have asked me to actually show the bottles for a longer period of time. This is how the bottle of Club de Nuit Iconic looks. And now back onto the subject of this video. This fragrance has brought me quite a lot of compliments. Also, one other fact that I like about this fragrance is the performance. It has a very, very good performance considering the scent profile of this fragrance. And in my opinion, this lasts longer and projects better compared to the original scent. And I also love the color combination. Another blue scent that I've added actually quite recently to my collection, but since I've added it, it brought me quite a few compliments, comes from the house of Hadlage, and it's called Shiaka Blue. This is how the bottle looks. It has quite an interesting bottle design, and this fragrance is a very interesting one. It's not a straight up clone of anything. This is more like a hybrid between quite a few fragrances. The opening is somewhat reminiscent of, again, Bleu de Chanel. It has that sort of a slightly citrusy, slightly woodsy opening, but then it also has quite a lot of sweetness in the first like an hour and a half of its life. The sweetness in here is very reminiscent to something like Scandal Per Homme from Jean-Paul Gaultier. And once it goes into the life of this fragrance, once it goes into like 90 minutes or like 2 hours after you've sprayed this again transforms into something quite different, and the dry down is very bluish again, but it's very shower jelly. To my nose, this is like the easiest way that I can explain how this smells on the dry down. It smells like sort of an classic men's shower gel. It's actually a very, very nice fragrance, very unique because, again, as I said, it's not a straight up clone of anything. It incorporates a few different DNAs, a few different scent profiles, and the end result actually is very likable, very easy to wear. Performance, again, is pretty solid for this type of scent profile. And the third fragrance that I'm going to talk about is yet another sort of a bluish type of scent. This one comes from the house of Maison Alhambra, and it's called Salvo Intense. This fragrance is a clone of Dior Sauvage EDP, and as a clone, it's actually done very, very nicely. And I just cannot do a video about compliment getting fragrances without mentioning the Dior Sauvage DNA, because hate it or love it, this DNA still works to this day. It's super likable, it's super easy to wear, and it gets quite a lot of compliments. Salvo Intense does a very good job at copying the original fragrance, very close scent wise, also has pretty decent performance for what it is, especially when we talk about the price tag. This gives me a solid 7 to 8 hours of performance, and the price tag here is very, very low. The next sort of a scent profile, scent family that I'm going to talk about will be more of the freshy type of scents. In here I've prepared a few fragrances. Some of them are very, very similar to each other. And the first scent, the original scent that I'm going to show you clones of, cheap clones of, is the scent DNA, the scent profile of a Bulgari's Tiger. It's a very easy to wear, very citrusy, very oudi, very spicy and musky scent profile that just works all year round. It's super versatile, very likable, very easy to wear, and gets a lot of compliments, at least in my experience. And I'm going to show you 3 different options when it comes to Bulgari Tiger clones. The first one comes from the house of Afnan, and it's called Turati Blue. This is probably, out of the 3 that I'm going to show you, this is probably the one that's gotten me the most amount of compliments. It's very similar to the original fragrance, but has a little bit more of an ambery sweetness, at least to my nose. That's how it differs. Performance here is very, very good, and as I said, this is probably the most complimented clone of Tiger that I have in my collection. But I'm going to give you 2 other options. One of them comes from the house of Lattafa and their Pride line, and it's called Alkiam Silver. This is how the bottle looks. As I said, member of the Pride line. And the other one comes from the house of Rue Broca, which is a sub-brand of Afnan, and it's called Theoreme. This is probably the most sort of famous and well-known fragrance from the Rue Broca brand. Both of them, again, Bulgari Tiger clones. To my nose, Alkiam Silver feels the closest to the original scent out of all 3, and my most favorite out of the 3 is Theoreme from Rue Broca. Again, very citrusy with lots of grapefruit sweetness, lots of ambery sweetness, lots of musk and woodsy notes, quite a lot of spices. All 3 of them have great performance, all 3 of them are very easy to wear, and all 3 of them has gotten me quite a lot of compliments. I'm continuing on with the theme of fresh fragrances. The next one that I'm going to show you is another one of those that's been part of my collection for a short amount of time. It comes from the house of Haramain, and it's called Junoon Oud. And this fragrance is again very similar to the 3 that I just showed you and to the original scent Bulgari Tiger, but this is actually a clone of Suspiros Vibrato. Now the original scent Vibrato is quite similar to Tiger, but it feels a little bit darker, a little bit more mature, slightly less fresh, but again pretty similar as a scent profile, and again another compliment getter, from my experience. I've had this for a short amount of time, just a few weeks, like 3 or 4 weeks, but I've given it quite a few wears already, and people around me seem to really like this one. It has great performance for a freshie. As I said, feels a little bit darker, comes nicely packaged, a little bit more expensive, but I think it's worth it because of the high quality of the scent profile and because of the amount of performance that you get out of it. And the last fresh fragrance that I'm going to talk about in this video comes again from the house of Lattafa, and it's called Maahir Legacy. This one has a very unique looking bottle, very heavy bottle, and this is a clone of Parfum de Marly's Sedley. Yet another fresh scent profile, and this fresh scent, and this is even fresher than anything that I've showed you up to this point. This feels fresher, it has a nice amount of minty freshness as well. It's very fruity, very citrusy, with also quite a lot of spiciness and green notes in it. Again, a very easy to wear scent, very versatile fragrance that can work all year round, and at least in my experience from from the amount of time that I've had this in my collection, and from the times that I've been wearing this fragrance, it actually has a very good performance for this scent profile. I was very pleasantly surprised by the performance of Maahir Legacy. The next one that I'm going to show you is not exactly a freshie, but then again it's not a very dark scent. It comes from the house of Afnan, and actually is a very unique fragrance, and it's called Tribute, or some places sell this under the name of Tribute Blue. An interesting looking bottle, a very luxurious presentation, and as I said, a very unique scent profile. Now this, as far as I know, this is not a clone of anything. It's more like a fragrance that's inspired by something else. In this case, to my nose, this feels like it's drawn its inspirations from Bois Imperial by Essential Parfums. It has a very interesting sort of slightly spicy, slightly woodsy scent profile that has some musk. It has a nice amount of ambery sweetness and also a nice amount of freshness in there as well. Very unique, but at the same time a very versatile, very easy to wear fragrance with fantastic performance and also a very high compliment factor. My wife really enjoys those times when I'm wearing Tribute Blue from the house of Afnan. So but just keep in mind that this is a sort of a unique fragrance that in my opinion needs to be sampled first before you actually commit to a full bottle. The next two scents that I'm going to show you both come from the house of Lattafa, and they're very similar to each other because they're cloning the same fragrance. One of them is called Al Nashama and the other one is called Vintage Radio. Both of them are clones of Initio's Paragon, and both of them are actually very good clones of Paragon. Now I found that Paragon as a scent works really nicely. It's another very versatile fragrance that works all year round, and it's also a very unisex fragrance, and both clones from Lattafa actually do a very good job at copying the original scent and copying the scenarios, the times where you could wear the original fragrance, sort of replace the original fragrance. Both of them are very fruity. You get a nice sweet jammy plum note in both of them. They have some woodsy notes on the dry down. Vintage Radio feels a little bit closer to the original fragrance in my opinion, has a little bit more of an woodsy feel. Al Nashama feels a little bit lighter, but both of them work really nicely, and both of them actually have got me quite a few compliments, and those two scents are another one of those that my wife really enjoys when I'm wearing. The next one that I'm going to show you comes from the house of Al Haramain, and it's called Amber Oud Ruby Edition. This one is a clone of a Baccarat Rouge 540. Now I don't know how it is in your parts of the world, but at least around here where I live, a lot of people wear this DNA. Most of them wearing clones, some of them cheaper clones, some of them higher quality clones like Ruby Edition right here. And this is a very divisive scent because people like this scent as a scent on its own, but because so many others are wearing the Baccarat Rouge 540 DNA, it's a very divisive thing. A lot of people hate the original scent and the whole scent profile because of the amount of people that are actually wearing it, and they probably like the other half of people are actually really like when someone is wearing this fragrance or any of its brothers and sisters. It's a compliment getter for sure, another very versatile fragrance that probably the only time that I wouldn't wear this scent is probably in the midst of summer, when the temperatures are very high. But Amber Oud Ruby Edition is a great clone of Baccarat Rouge 540. Very high quality scent and has fantastic performance. It's pretty much a beast mode performing scent. The next one that I'm going to show you copies yet another very famous DNA, and the clone comes from the house of Lattafa, and it's called Lattafa Asad, and this is probably the most famous clone of Dior Sauvage Elixir. Now Dior Sauvage Elixir has been a very popular scent ever since it got released, and as I said, Asad is probably the most famous clone of Elixir, and people really like that DNA, and this fragrance has gotten me quite a lot of compliments. It's a very nicely done clone with a twist of the original fragrance. This feels a little bit less spicy, a little bit less sharp, feels a little bit more sweet, in my opinion. It has a bit more vanillic sweetness, but again works pretty much in the same scenarios that you would wear, Sauvage Elixir. It's very nicely done, and especially after some maceration, this fragrance has a great performance again. And one other thing that I really like about Asad is the fact that the price of Asad has remained pretty much constant throughout the past couple of years, despite the amount of hype and interest that Lattafa Asad has garnered. The next fragrance, the next sort of a scent DNA that I'm going to show you, at least in my own experience, has got me quite a lot of compliments. People around me seem to enjoy it quite a lot. The original DNA, the original fragrance is called Jean-Paul Gaultier Ultra Mole, and I'm going to show you two alternatives for Ultra Mole. The first one comes from the house of Afnan, and it's called 9 PM. This is probably the most famous fragrance from the house of Afnan, and the second one is called Glacier Ultra, and this one comes from the house of Lattafa. Now one of them is more of a straight up clone, Glacier Ultra. This is pretty much a straight up cloning the original scent. 9 PM has a slight twist, slightly sort of a freshy twist added here. Afnan have replaced the original pear note with an apple note that just gives this fragrance a little bit more of a fresh feel in the opening. On the dry down, both are very close to the original scent. The original fragrance is very playful, very youthful fragrance, and both of the clones are actually very similar, and both of them have gotten me quite a lot of compliments. Another one that has worked pretty much flawlessly when it comes to getting compliments, and it's very cheap at the same time, has a very nice quality scent wise and very close to the original fragrance for a fraction of the price. Again, it comes from the house of Haramain, and it's called Detour Noir. And this is probably the most famous and the cheapest clone of Parfum de Marly's Leighton that you can get. The original fragrance is very well known, it's a very likable wintertime scent, you know, cold weather scent, and Detour Noir does a very good job at copying that original fragrance, captivating the spirit of the original scent. It's fruity, it's woodsy, it's spicy, and has quite a lot of vanilla sweetness as well. It's a very festive scent, in my opinion. Whenever I think about Leighton and, you know, all of the good clones of Leighton, I think about the Christmas holidays. Performance here is great, price tag is very low, and the compliment factor, at least from my own experience, has been very high. And moving on to the last two scents in today's video, the two scents from my collection that has you know, gotten me the most amount of compliments. The first, they're pretty similar to each other. The first one comes again from the house of Afnan, and it's called Supremacy, Not Only Intense. This is a sort of a hybrid clone between two very famous DNAs. On one hand you have the Creed Aventus DNA, and then on the other hand you have the Nishane Hashivat DNA. It's like a mix between those two, leaning to the Hashivat side. It has quite a lot of you know, fruity sweetness, very strong fruity sweetness in here, some spices, some woodsy notes, a strong mossy note in this fragrance. It's a very loud, very strong scent with beast mode performance, beast mode projection, super versatile, and a very likable fragrance that has gotten me quite a lot of compliments. And then I'm going to share with you the king, the compliment getting king in my collection, and it's none other than Club de Nuit Intense Man, EDP in this case. This is probably the most well-known clone of Creed Aventus. Now again, like with Dior Sauvage, you know, and Creed Aventus is pretty much a similar scent, can be very divisive nowadays. A lot of people are wearing clones of Creed Aventus, but the reality is that this fragrance just works, you know, that scent DNA just works. It works all year round, it's very easy to wear, it works in any type of scenario. You can wear this fragrance to pretty much any type of occasion. You can wear it to the office, you can wear it on a date night, on a night out, you can wear it to the gym, you can wear it in summer, you can wear it, you know, in winter. It has beast mode performance, beast mode projection, and it's a beast when it comes to getting compliments. The two most complimented fragrances in my collection, Afnan Supremacy Not Only Intense, and the king Club de Nuit Intense Man EDP. And so guys, in today's video I try to quickly share with you the most complimented cheap fragrances from my collection. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.